Return, O Virgin Daughter of Israel, to these your highways by which you went. Welcome to Reunion Roadmap, a place to discover the people and communities along the highway of restoration for Israel's House of Yosef. Reunion Roadmap is a B'nai Yosef North America production. Be our guest for the next hour as we meet the people of the emerging House of Yosef here in North America.
Hey, welcome to Reunion Roadmap. This is Al McCarn, and with me is Zefania Pappas, my friend and brother and co-host. And as usual, we're going to go straight into an interview segment. Zefania, this is part 3 of your interview with an author.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, who is that author? That's you.
Yeah, this is the wrapping up of our 3-part conversation that you and I had about my new book, Christian Zionism 101, 10 Reasons Christians Should Support Israel and the Jewish People. Hey, Zefania, you've received your copy of the book, right?
Yes, I am.
Oh, cool. How did you like the maps?
Yes, very good. Because I think it really helps people to understand, some people are geographically challenged these days, and it's always good to know what are we talking about here.
Well, that's true, and that's why I wanted to include maps. And so, folks, when you get the book, there are pictures. And but you're right; it's people are geographically challenged. Often folks don't understand, and you got to represent it visually to them.
Yes.
Israel is the size of New Jersey, and it is one little dot in the midst of this sea of Islamic nations running all the way from Morocco in Northwest Africa to Indonesia.
Yes.
And there are, 22, 23 Arab Muslim states in North Africa and in the Middle East. And then we get to Iran. Well, that's a Persian Muslim state. But if you just look at it and you see, well, if Israel's dividing the land, how can that be? It's such a small country, and there's only one Jewish state with 10 million people, 7.5 million of whom are Jews. And then there are, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of Arabs and Muslims around them in Africa and in Southwest Asia and in Europe now. So it's not about the Jewish people occupying Arab land. No, it's coming back to their own indigenous land that God gave them. And by the way, as Yishai Fleischer says, they're an armed minority in a hostile neighborhood.
Yes, it's a good way to put
it. It is. And as you know from being there so many times, and we have so many Jewish and Israeli friends, you really don't get it until you go there. So, folks, if you hadn't been to Israel or haven't been in a long time, book your flight, plan your trip. Oh, yeah, and we know a good tour guide. Go look up Hanok Young at kolyehuda.com. He will take you around the country and give you a great tour. So let's go on back and finish our conversation. Okay, so that's chapter 4. We get to chapter 5, and that was my favorite chapter. It's the longest one in the book, I think, because of the historical record. Now, Zefania, did you ever notice anything peculiar in Acts chapter 7 when Stephen, the deacon, is hauled before the court, the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem, about the defense that he offers?
Well, he offers that he's talking about the entire history of Israel, and he's saying that the very thing that you see here that's taking place is actually what was taking place in the wilderness. Even that was the congregation in the wilderness. Of this, this one is this is the same congregation.
Yeah. Well, I had Stephen's defense in mind when I was writing this fifth chapter about the historical record. Because if you read it, you wonder, wait, they had asked him if he was teaching and preaching against the law of Moses and the customs of the elders. And he starts in with a history lesson. What's up with that? That's not a defense. That's just reciting the Bible. Well, actually, it was a defense because he was showing how the the coming of Yeshua of Nazareth, whom he understood and we understand to be the Messiah of Israel, all of that was in keeping with what God had done. It was fitting the pattern. It was keeping with the promises and the fulfillments of those promises and pointing toward the ultimate redemption of Israel. So, with that in mind, I started this historical chapter with Abraham and went through the scriptural history of Israel in ancient times and then brought it into the modern times because I want to help the readers understand that this is not two separate things. You know, the Bible in ancient times and then modern Israel, where the history began in 1882. No, it is all one long story, and it's all connected. So, with that in mind, then we can go on to the sixth chapter, which is because Western civilization is built on Judeo-Christian values. You know, we call them Judeo-Christian values, but they're biblical values, they're Torah values. To use the Hebrew term, they are our halakha, how we walk. You know, if you're a Baptist, if you're Catholic, if you're Orthodox, if you're Karaite, if you're Reformed, if you're a Mormon, you're still taking your understanding of what's right and wrong from the Bible. And it is the Hebrew scriptures which is the foundation of that. And that's what I present in the sixth chapter. Then the seventh chapter, and that speaks to current affairs. It's called Because Israel Shines the Light of Freedom in a Very Dark Neighborhood. You know, what more evidence do we need for that than the horrors of October 7th, 2023? But you know, this is not new. This war has been going on for more than 100 years. The um, the riots, the pogroms, um, the terrorist acts against Jewish people in the land of Israel, the land of Palestine, as it was called 100 years ago. It's the same terror tactics. Nothing's changed. The only thing that has changed really is the scope of the attacks and the international press coverage. But you look at 1929 when rioters uh, they killed dozens, I think 67 Jews in the ancient Jewish community of Hebron, where the tomb of the patriarchs are, where Abraham bought the cave of Machpelah and the field around it as the place to lay to rest his beloved Sarah. So Abraham and Sarah are buried there. Isaac and Rebekah are buried there. Jacob and Leah are buried there. And there's been a Jewish presence nearly unbroken from antiquity all the way up to 1929 when Arab Muslim rioters did there in Hebron in 1929 much the same as what the Hamas terrorists did in 2023 in southern Israel around in the area outside Gaza. The atrocities may have been, there were more of them in 2023. They were perhaps more horrendous. But this was a small Jewish community, an ancient Jewish community that was suddenly set upon. And because the British who ruled the land at the time could not guarantee their safety, the Jewish community was removed. So, because of the British mandatory power in Palestine and Arab terrorism, this ancient Jewish community was removed from the year 1929 all the way up to the year, I think, 1974. for nearly 50 years. And I say that to say Israel Israel is still surrounded by and infiltrated by neighbors who want to eradicate the Jewish people. They don't want a two-state solution. They want a one-state solution, and a Jewish state is not part of the answer in their reckoning. But we look as well at Israel being a liberal democratic country, one that is, accepting of so many different cultures, races, languages. You've walked the streets of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and you have seen the Ethiopian Jews, Yemenite Jews,
Yes.
Sephardic Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, Jews from all over, and the non-Jewish Israelis, Arabs, Druze, whether they're Muslims or Christians, the Arabs are there, and they have equal citizenship, and then people from all around the world. And it's a functioning democracy. Oh boy, does it have its faults, like all the rest of the countries of the world. And it's also got genuine religious freedom, even to a fault, because until recently, Muslims could pray on the Temple Mount, Jews could not. You've been there. So that's what chapter 7 is all about. The reality of Israel in a land surrounded or in a region that is really populated by dictatorships and intolerance and a lot of hatred. Now, number 8, going back to the Bible, it's called Because Christian Support for Israel is Prophesied. It's what the prophets say, Zechariah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, they talk about, kings carrying your children home and bringing their wealth with them. My favorite is in Zechariah 8, 8:23, it says, 10 men from the nations will take hold of the garment or the tzitzit of a Jew and say, let us go with you. And that's a chapter about how the nations of the earth are exhorting the Jewish people to go up, rebuild Zion, be who you are called to be. We want to help you because all of us want to go up to the Lord and worship him. This is Christians wouldn't understand, but God foresaw this millennia ago, telling the end from the beginning. And this is where I get to talk about, building on what I've written before, of Christian Zionism is not a new thing. Christians have helped Jews from the beginning, and especially in the last 2 centuries, as the dry bones were coming back to life. Christians have been instrumental in bringing the Jewish people home and helping them get reestablished and building the modern state of Israel. All of that is prophesied. Now, number 9, I say, because you are part of the Commonwealth of Israel. And this we talked about before. I love that term that Paul uses only once in the Bible in Ephesians 2. But what other way to say it? The Jewish people are the visible remnant of the nation of Israel. And God has to maintain that visible remnant, because if Israel is the only nation that he's not going to make a full end of, but he's going to perfect it, and eventually the law will go forth from Zion as Messiah, the King of Israel, is ruling from his father's throne in Jerusalem, and all the nations flow to Zion. Well, I kind of think of it like the British Commonwealth, where there's different nations, different realms around the earth, but everyone's acknowledging the British sovereign as their sovereign. I think it's going to be like that, and even more so. So in the meantime, when you and I talk about being, of Hebraic identity, we're not talking about pushing the Jews out of their covenant. No, we're just following the example of people like Ruth and like Ittai the Gittite, the man who was faithful to David and one of his military commanders. He was a Philistine. And we're talking about so many others in Scripture. Even into the New Testament, we get to that. of so many Gentiles coming to faith. And, we could be called God-fearing Gentiles, whatever. I think terms right now, the terminology is still fluid, and there are many ways to describe the same phenomenon. But the fact is, God has one covenant of redemption for all the world, and it flows through Israel. So that's why my argument is you're part of the Commonwealth. You're part of the solution yourself, you Christian. And finally, because the alternative is unthinkable. What happens if the enemies of Israel succeed in their plans? And they not only eradicate the Jewish state of Israel, the one Jewish state in the whole world, but what if somehow the 15 million Jews in the world today are eliminated? What happens? Well, our civilization would be in jeopardy and might not be able to survive because our foundations are cut out from under us. But I mentioned another unthinkable alternative. See, I'm persuaded God's not going to let that happen. That's part of his eternal promises to Abraham's seed. Israel, the Jewish people, they will win. They will come through. They will be perfected. God promises that. Iniquity will be purged from the land. Yeah, so everyone who sees Israel's a secular state and it's not right and they're not, holy and righteous. Yeah, I get it. I understand. My Orthodox friends understand that very well. God's going to fix it, but he's going to maintain the existence of his Jewish people and this Jewish state because it's part of his redemptive plan for the whole earth. So the unthinkable thing is knowing that that's going to happen. What if instead of joining with God and being part of his solution, we decide not to? And this is where we get into a sheep and goats scenario from Matthew 25. So I'll let listeners draw their own conclusion there. So that's the book, and then I round it out with an appendix with resources for learning and action. Starting off with book and movie recommendations to learn little bit about Jewish culture and history, the history of the miracle of the reestablishment of the modern state of Israel. I put in there other resources for learning, like, Root Source, like 10 from the Nations, one of the organizations I'm part of, to help that we educate people on the Christian history with the Jewish people, which has not been that good, actually. And, other resources like HaYovel and the Aliyah Return Center, where you can actually go and volunteer and directly help the Jewish people in the state of Israel. That's why I wanted to include this appendix to give people the tools to follow up as the Lord leads. So that's the book.
Wow, that gives a pretty good synopsis and as to what somebody's going to encounter when they read this book. And I certainly am looking forward to it coming my way. It's supposed to be arriving on the 31st. So,
well, when you read it, put a good review up there on Amazon.
will
So,
do.
and you can get it directly from Amazon.com. Just put a search in there for Christian Zionism 101, 10 reasons Christians should support Israel and the Jewish people. Or you could even go to the publisher's website, pronomianpublishing.com. Pronomianpublishing.com. There's a lot of good content with Pronomian Publishing, and I just happened to be the latest author published. Yeah, it was fun to write. It was actually a quick project, so that's how I understand, this was the Lord was in it, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you, Al, and I pray our listeners will be truly blessed and that it will clear up some of their misunderstandings that they may have had in regard to Zionism and the Jewish people.
Well, thank you, Tzefania. That's the whole point of the book. There's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of misunderstanding. And, especially for the young people, I was seeing a statistic today that 32% of the young people in America favor Hamas over Israel. And that's why we want to get this resource into people's hands.
Absolutely.
So, we can set the record straight and let God do his will with his people so that, we can hasten Messiah's return.
Yes, amen. Well, thank you, Al. And this is the end of the interview portion of Reunion Roadmap. And hopefully you'll return, and because we got some more exciting programs for you to listen to. This is Safania Pappas signing off with Al McCarn.
And now, Laura Metzing with Shema Israel from her album, Instrument of Worship.
We stand before you now, unashamed of you, with hearts lifted high. We want to worship you. Victory is won. This we all proclaim. Yah, we lift our voices and glorify your name. Here we are to worship you, Yah, with all our hearts, standing in your presence, doing our part. Unashamed of you.
Shalom, everybody. Welcome to the Mid-Rush portion of Reunion Roadmap. This is David Jones. With me today is Barry Phillips. Shalom, brother.
Shalom, David.
I've been doing some thinking a little recently about how in the Word of Yahweh we find the same things in the Tanakh, the Torah, the prophets, the writings, and in the Brit Hadashah, the New Covenant, Renewed Covenant, and how a lot of these things, when we're reading through the Scriptures, what we've been told is that a lot of things in the New Testament is just that new. It wasn't done before. The old stuff has gone away. This is new, but we know that's not so. We know Yahweh's word is Yahweh's word from the beginning to the end, and we see the thread of weaving all these things all the way through the entirety of the book. One example I've seen in this recently is Yeshua in Matthew chapter 26, when he's sitting there with his disciples, and he lifts the bread, the matzah, he makes the blessing, he gives it to us, says, "Take, eat, this is my body." Then he takes the cup, and he says, after doing the blessing, he says, "Drink from it, all of you." Then he says something very interesting. "This is the blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the removal of sins." Other translations, "This is my blood, which ratifies the new covenant, blood shed on behalf of many to have their sins forgiven." All different translations, different things, but the same concept is used here, blood of the covenant. And we know blood covenant. Well, yeah, now we're talking just circumcision, right? No, not really. I want to make a point of saying this is not the first time this phrase is being used, the blood of the covenant. I want to go back to Moshe at the mountain, and after they were brought out of Mitzrayim, and here they are. They're brought to the mountain. Yahweh says, "I'm going to come down. I'm going to speak with you." The people affirm, yes, all that Yahweh says, we will hear, we will do. And Moshe goes back, and he talks to Yahweh, and have this kind of back and forth thing that's going on. And something really interesting happens in chapter 24. After these declarations of, yes, we will do this. So they do offerings. They do peace offerings and burnt offerings. Won't get into those right now. Don't have the time for that. But they have these two offerings. And then Moshe takes what's said the book of the covenant. Now, the book of the covenant, we'd say, oh, well, that's the Torah. But many speculate it was just the portion of the Torah containing mishpatim, which are the things that were spoken right after the Ten Commandments. So that's another midrash. But so he takes the book of the covenant and he reads it aloud, and the people hear, and they say, everything that Adonai has spoken, we will do, we will obey. And then he takes these offerings, the blood of the offerings, he takes the blood and he sprinkles it on the people, and he says, "This is the blood of the covenant, which Adonai has made for you in accordance with these words." So he took the blood of the offerings, he put it in two basins, he separated it out. Half the blood was splashed on the altar. So we know that this is representing a dedication to the altar, being a connection to the altar, and atonement being given there. But then the other half was splashed on the people. And so there was a connection between atonement, covenant, and the altar, and the people, all these things being done, but it said in accordance with all these words. So now we have this picture of covenant, of blood, and the words all going together. When you make a covenant, you have to make some kind of declaration, some kind of oath, some kind of something to go with it. You have to have the words to go there. And so the word that was given and the blood and all these things working together. And so there's a lot to be said here, just kind of setting all this up. Another thing I was thinking of with the blood and the word working together was the mezuzah. And you may not immediately make this connection, but we have the mezuzah, which is the word that is to be written on the doorposts. But what else happens at the doorpost, Barry, with the servant? He go ahead.
His ear is the servant. He becomes a bond servant there with his ear pierced.
So we have a confession of loyalty, a confession of covenant, and the words and the blood and the hearing and the ear all being connected there again. and at the threshold, another place of covenant. So there's a lot of things that are really going on here under the surface. It's not just a little declaration here. And so when Yeshua says this is the blood of the covenant, I believe this is going back into what are the words? The words saying, in Jeremiah 31, this is the Torah being written on your heart. This is the blood and the words going together with your declaration of a covenant and loyalty coming in faith in Yahweh. And so we have, again, other places in throughout the scripture are all there, but we have covenant, we have blood, we have words, we have all these things happening, and kind of like if you try to put all these together, it kind of makes your head spin a little bit, doesn't it?
People start out every year, oftentimes, David, and they say, "I'm going to read the book, read the Bible through in a year," and they do fine until they get to Leviticus, and it's the offerings and the blood and the details that they say. They do one of two things: they skip Leviticus, or else they stop. So when we fail to understand all of this blood and covenant and details, if we don't understand that this is Yeshua being revealed to us, when Moshe took the blood of the covenant and he sprinkled the people, there's Yeshua. He is the covenant. He is the book of the covenant. He is the shedding of the blood. He is the atoning of the people. He's all of that. If you don't see Yeshua in there, you missed the point. And it just becomes details that we think, okay, I'm looking for a golden nugget, but I didn't see anything there. Let's just keep on reading, see if I find something else a little later on. And we just went right by the important part.
So having the word written on your heart means you kind of have the details right, doesn't it?
I hate details. It bugs me. To read a graph or a chart, one of these detailed. I forget what I don't use a PC, so I forget the spreadsheet format that they use. But when you see all of this just fine detail stuff, my brain just goes into hibernation. And it's like, no, we're not going there. But it's in the details. When it comes to the Torah, you have to focus. You have to take time. Actually, David, years ago, I had a rabbi speak to me. He said, "So you've learned to study the Torah. So you trained your mind to study." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, in order to search the scriptures and know the Torah, you have to train your mind to study. You have to tune everything else out and be completely focused on what's in front of you. I have to confess, I'm still figuring that out. But Yeshua is in the details. He's on the glancing through the pages. But if you want to find his face, he's there. But if you want to see the texture of his skin, if you want to see the color of his eyes, if you want to hear the words and see his mouth moves as he speaks, you have to get into the details.
As you're saying that, Barry, I'm thinking in relationship to what we just opened with, the blood of the covenant. Blood, biblically speaking, is not about death. It's about life. Scripture says that the life is in the blood, and the Torah says the life is in the blood, and I've given it to you to make atonement on the altar. The whole sacrificial system was not about, okay, you sin, so something's going to die. It's going to be you or the goat. It's about life being represented and brought into the presence of Yahweh. It's like we were removed from his presence, and so now we want to be back in his presence or represented in his presence, even by proxy, so to speak. But the life and the blood going up in smoke to the Father, it's the blood that brings us closer to him because it's the life that's there. That kind of opens up more the ideas on Yeshua. Because it is his blood, his life that brings us into the presence of the Father, which perfectly fits well with what we just read back in Exodus 24, because right after these declarations and right after the sprinkling of the blood, right after all of these things, it says that Moshe, Aaron, Nadav, and Abihu, the 70 elders, they all went into the presence of Yahweh, and they sat and they ate and they drank and they saw the God of Israel. Now, that's the very first time that phrase, the God of Israel, has been used. And so that's pertinent. This is
Yes.
Why is it there in the expression of covenant? And then we have the idea of this. Yeshua is our peace, right? He is our shalom. Well, there's more to it there. One of the offerings that were given was a shalom offering, a peace offering, which you were supposed to eat. It went on the altar and it got cooked, and then you got portions of that back that you ate. So what were they eating on the mountain? It's not like, wow, here's the God of Israel. Hey, I'm hungry. Someone want to get a burger? I mean, no, they were eating of the peace offering that they had just presented to Yahweh. And here, by the blood of the covenant, they were able to come and eat the peace offering in his presence, and to eat from his table, and to be with him, and to share with the God of Israel. And guys, that's, like you were just talking, that is all a picture of Yeshua.
As you're describing that, David, I'm thinking that the peace offering, the Sephakim, the portion that goes up to Yah is the fat that is burned. So Yah has, from this altar, he has received his portion. He is enjoying the fat, the aroma of the fat that has come up before him. Here are the representatives of the entire corporate body of Israel in front of him. It says that his hand, verse 11, he did not stretch out his hand against the chiefs of the children of Israel. Normally, to see him in that proximity to where you can actually see the paved work of sapphire coming out from under his throne, that's very, very close proximity. And yet, in his Shekinah glory exposed to them, it did not kill them. Why? How is it? I mean, this is a vision as much as Moshe has ever seen. Yet Moshe was always hidden in the thin wisp of a cloud that separated him from seeing his face. Did they see Yah's face? I don't think so. But they saw more than any other man had seen, and yet his hand was not upon them. Why? Because they were eating and partaking of simultaneously of the same offering he was. They were being vitally connected to him and a covenant of shalom, which is interesting. If you go to the Torah portion of Pinchas, he was given a priesthood of shalom, and it's in that Torah portion that the daily Tamid in chapter 28 of Numbers of Bimidbar is described. And that offering is an olah, an ascending offering, which is another offering offered here. What's interesting, I find, David, is that when you look at Leviticus's description of an olah offering, it is called an offering by fire, a pleasing odor to Yahweh. That offering in Pinchas's Torah portion, chapter 28, the daily Tamid is an olah offering. It would be a pleasing aroma, an offering of fire on a daily basis. That daily, to me, then, is connected all the way back to what we're describing here in Exodus 24 and what Yeshua was alluding to, where Yah's people say, we will do and we will obey. Or we will hear. We will obey and we will hear. We're in covenant with him. That willingness to read his word and simply do what it says to do, it's more than just a change of heart and a change of mind. It is a part of the blood covenant of Yeshua. He redeemed us to be able to do that.
Wow. And that is an amazing statement to ponder, to think on, and to close us out. So that'll take us out for time. Barry, you want to see us out?
Sure. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for any questions or comments you have, which you can send to Reunion Roadmap at B'nai, B-N-E-Y, Yosef, Y-O-S-E-F, B'nai Yosef, N-A, www.ccc.com.
And now, Naaseh Vanishma, We Hear and We Obey, by Barry Phillips and the Aleph Tav Band. That was Barry Phillips with Naaseh V'Nishma, We Hear and We Obey. And our first song was Shema Israel by Laura Metzing from her first album. And those were like fitting bookends, I think, to the blood of the covenant, which is the name of the midrash Barry and David shared with us. Hey, Stefania, they had some interesting points that stood out to me, but what did you get from what our elders shared about the blood of the covenant?
Well, when David was sharing about what happened at Mount Sinai, where he was saying that this is the blood of the covenant, and so what he was saying is that Yeshua was there, just as Yeshua was there, shedding his own blood. He was there at that scene as well, and they're totally intimately connected, one and the same event. And so this whole idea that he's doing this brand new thing that is like, it's not a brand new thing. It's just an extension of something that he started a long time ago.
Well, it's true. I remember Monty Judah in a teaching series would say, we're going to ask a questions like biblical Jeopardy, and you have to give the question, but the answer is always the Messiah. Well, it's right. Who shed blood for the covenant? The Messiah. Who was there at Mount Sinai? The Messiah. Who bought the redemption of the whole earth? Messiah.
Yes.
Yeah, and the way they tied everything together in this midrash, it really did. It just resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
In growing up in church and in school, and then in church during as an adult, hearing all the time, you can find Jesus in every book of the Bible. And even a song I remember, I wish I remember who sang it, of going through every single book and saying, here he is. Like in Joshua, he's that scarlet thread of redemption that Rahab hung out her window. Well, how about this one, Stefania? His blood of the new covenant, it's actually what activated that covenant, put the power into it. Yeah, and that opened the way for all of us, whether we're descended from Israel or not. We're born in the nations, and that opened the way for us to come in. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Reunion Roadmap. Go ahead and visit our website. You might find some interesting things there with our resources. It is BneyYosefNA.com, BneyYosefNA.com. And while you're there, if you want to click on that donate button and partner with us, we would be greatly honored. And also, if you would like to be an affiliate and join the growing network of B'nai Yosef North America affiliates, then you can start that process right there on the home page. So on behalf of Stefania Pappas, Barry Phillips, and David Jones, this is Al McCarn. Shavua Tov.
Thank you for joining us on Reunion Roadmap, a production of B'nai Yosef North America. Please come back next week for another visit with the people of the emerging house of Yosef here in North America.